Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Rwanda-level mass extermination. And that's how one US war investigators described the scale of killings in the Sudanese city of El-Fasher after its fall to the RSF paramilitary over the weekend. Also, French media giant Canal Plus recently finalised its takeover of Africa's top entertainment platform, Multichoice. It was sold as a way to breathe fresh life into an ailing organisation. But what does it mean for the culture behind African broadcasting? We have a breakdown from South African media lawyer David Dyson. Also, grieving families in Central African Republic resort to illegal burials as they struggle to find official space to lay their loved ones to rest. But first, the level, speed and totality of violence in Darfur is unlike anything that I have seen. That is how one US war investigator has described the aftermath of the RSF's seizure of the city of El-Fasher from the Sudanese military. The African Union's also warned of mounting allegations of war crimes and atrocities since El-Fasher's fall to the paramilitary on Sunday. An estimated 2,000 civilians have been killed since then, and tens of thousands have tried to flee the violence being played out in the city.
Over the past week alone, 26,000 new arrivals have been registered, have been received in Tawila. The stories that we hear through my colleagues that are on the ground in Tawila providing protection services are horrendous and horrific. Our new arrivals report of widespread ethnically and politically motivated killing, indiscriminate violence affecting in particularly the most vulnerable.
Now, about 177,000 people are still reckoned to be trapped in El-Fasher. The RSF built a 56-kilometre earth ridge to stop food, medicine and would-be escapees, but some have made it out. But Sudan's wider war, though, has created the world's largest humanitarian crisis since it began in 2023, with war crimes committed on both sides. Refuge is difficult to find, but people try and people hope. This report from the Darfuri town of Tawila.
Darfur, a region off limits to journalists, is at the heart of the war that has been raging for 2.5 years between the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces. These paramilitaries, filmed by France 2, control almost the entire territory. It is the first time that a foreign television crew has entered Tawila. 560,000 people have taken refuge in this area, which has been spared from the fighting. Others continue to arrive, like this grandmother, who has been here for 5 days with her daughter and grandchildren.
The journey here was so difficult. We were thirsty. We had to hide for 3 days. Even the children had nothing to eat.
Like most of the displaced people, they fled El-Fasher, the capital of North Darfur, some 60 kilometres away, during the siege by the paramilitaries.
There were bombings, bombs falling everywhere, shells.
The displaced populations depend mainly on insufficient aid. It takes the trucks days to reach the town of Tawila.
There's a shortage of water. You see the people are in queue.
Dr. Nazir has seen the camps expand in less than 6 months.
It was very massive displacement. Children with donkey car, on food, wounded people. Yeah, new arrival. So you see how they are staying now.
Hundreds of thousands of people are now crammed together in unhygienic conditions that are conducive to epidemics, including cholera.
Mama,
how are you? I hope you're feeling better. Stretch your legs.
More than 1,700 patients have been treated in this cholera unit by the medical NGO Alina.
What is observed in this cholera that children also affected, and the most mortality was happened in under 5 also was observed during the cholera report. So because A lot of factors also, as you see, there is malnutrition problem. Most of cases, they have malaria. It will increase the severity of cholera.
Children eat things that are not clean. He fell ill 4 days ago, and on top of that, he has cholera.
Epidemics are not the only thing to be treated here. Faiza Abdallah, also a refugee, helps women overcome trauma.
Hello, how are you?
These young women and their families were victims of paramilitaries on their journey here.
Many armed men arrived. We were not strong enough to oppose them. They tried to separate the women, but we refused. My husband is dead. They killed him.
They agreed to talk about their rapes without saying the word.
We had to follow, and if it happened, it happened.
It happened, and he abandoned us there, by the side of the road in the dark.
A United Nations fact-finding mission in Sudan has accused both sides of deliberately targeting civilians.
Opposition voices in Tanzania are warning that Wednesday's presidential election is seriously flawed and threatens the country's democratic credentials. Incumbent Samia Suluhu Hassan faces 16 representatives from smaller parties, but her main rivals were barred from running. Main opposition party chief Tundu Lissu of Chadema is in jail on treason charges. Rights group Amnesty International also says the polls are characterised by an atmosphere of fear. Chadema claims that many voters feel intimidated.
The wave of abduction in this month alone, the month of October, is horrifying. As I speak to you now, the data we have, 52 people have been abducted. And some of them, we don't know their whereabouts, whether they have been killed or they are alive. In that situation, no one can feel safe in the country.
Now, French media giant Canal Plus recently finalised its takeover of Africa's top entertainment platform. The $3 billion acquisition of South African broadcaster Multichoice is Canal Plus's biggest ever. The combination of two of the continent's biggest producers of television content massively expands Canal Plus's footprint and gives it access to about 25 million households on the continent. Now, the acquisition was encouraged as a way to breathe fresh life into an ailing Multichoice. But what does it mean for the cultural cultivation within the wider African broadcasting landscape? I'm joined now by South African media lawyer David Dyson. David, thanks so much for helping us break all of this down. So first of all, what is your take on how this acquisition by Canal Plus is going to affect the wider African broadcasting landscape?
Well, thank you for having me on your program. Yes, well, as you said, the deal was driven by a consideration that the ecosystem of pay TV in Africa had to be preserved. So by combining the Francophone audience and the English-speaking audience with the theory behind the deal was that critical mass would be achieved so that the churn rate that there has been in pay TV would be staunched, and a consolidated continental group would have a greater chance of having a profitable existence. And of course, they convinced the Competitions Commission in South Africa of this, that it was a matter of survival. Obviously, the concerns are that you don't have the same diversity of voices because there's a concentration of media power here. But it's a question of whether the end justifies the means here, in a sense. And it's a question of whether Canal Plus will commit itself, as it has at the Broadcasting Authority, CASA. It's committed itself to preserving local content and preserving the push for local content, which is a very big seller in Africa.
So when you say local content, that is basically making sure that what's being made has a local African identity, something that we've seen more of a push for over the last few years. A bit more about how you think a takeover by a French operator will affect that.
Well, I think that's the concern. But so far, all the indications are that the French super management now will live with the local multi-choice management as it is, and that local management is very committed to the production of diverse and locally based content, which also makes a lot of sense from a commercial point of view because it's very, very popular, particularly at the level of telenovelas and sport.
Thank you so much for the breakdown that you have given us so far. We'll hopefully be able to follow up with you at another time in the future about that Canal Plus takeover of Africa's biggest entertainment broadcaster, Multichoice. We turn now to Central African Republic, where grieving families often struggle to find some place to lay their loved ones to rest. The lack of public cemeteries has led to a rise in the number of illegal burials. Tom Kinetti tells us more.
A few kilometres north of Bongi, a plot of land has become a makeshift cemetery. Families go there to bury their loved ones as they have no access to public cemeteries. They pay between 30 to 50,000 CFA francs to the neighbourhood leader.
These are the graves of those who came to me asking me to find them a plot to bury their loved ones. They don't have any land to bury them on. I did my best to find them places. All these graves belong to people who don't have plots. There's still plenty of space.
It's a discreet business, profitable for those managing the land. And locals like Fleury, who must bury his aunt, have no other choice.
My aunt has died and we are going to bury her today. I asked the local chief for help and fortunately he found us this place. As the state does not have a cemetery, we're forced to approach the chief to find a place.
The practice is illegal, but it's become commonplace here. So civil society has called on the government to build cemeteries.
We have a landmass of more than 623,000 square kilometres with an estimated population of only 6 million. But our authorities are unable to provide our cities with decent cemeteries. I think this is poor management of our territory. There are other countries that have a smaller territory but have decent cemeteries to bury bodies of their compatriots.
The CAR must allocate land to bury the approximately 50,000 people who die here each year, with the death rate 33% higher than the global average.
That's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks very much for joining us, and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.